Okay, well, thank you for coming. My name is Anna Focusato. We got one more person coming in. Okay. Um, I'm a community-based researcher at UW-Madison. I've been partnering with Regenerative Agriculture Alliance on this USDA SARE grant project. Um, and this is a project that started during my graduate student research. It's something that we're doing in collaboration with RAA to create spaces for um, farmers to connect and share experiences, ask questions, support each other. And so today we're going to have Daniel Ajpop Garcia and Arnulfo Perrera. Arnulfo is from Regenerative Agriculture Alliance, and Daniel is an agronomist, and he'll be presenting his work and research that he did at Salvatierra Farms in Northfield, Minnesota. So I will stop sharing my screen um, and let you all start your presentation.
Thank you so much, Anna. Uh, Good morning, everyone that's on the call and those that will be watching. So thank you. Um, so I'll start with a little bit of introduction. My name is Arnulfo Perrera. As Anna mentioned, I am part of the Regenerative Agriculture Alliance. I get the opportunity to work with farmers and to do part of research as well, so that we can bring it to the farmers. And with that, I'll pass it to Danielle, and then I will run our presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm from Guatemala. I working in a research in Salvatierra Farm this season, this 2025. I'm studied here in Guatemala in National Agriculture School, and I went to Honduras to Zamorano University, where I got my degree. Yeah, I'm working with Reggie in 2012. I did my internship, and that's my connection with this poultry production system. Okay, go ahead, Arnulfo.
Arnulfo, I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
Apologies. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, guys. So good morning again. Thank you for joining. So we'll talk a little bit about the research profile. So as you guys know, at the Regenerative Agriculture Alliance, we've been partnering with Tree Range, and we're raising birds for a couple of years now. But there's always been, the history on weights of live birds that we have. We've used different breeds and so with different outcomes at different farms. So with that in mind, there was opportunity with some grant funding to do some research on a specific breed. So we partner, and you'll see in our last slides, we're very thankful to our partners, and I'll share that at the end. But we started writing a proposal for doing some research. We were planning to do a full 12 flocks of research, but unfortunately, the funding was not readily available. So we got funding for 4 flocks. So first of all, we wanted to know why. Why are we doing this? So first of all, we want to make sure that we're taking care of the animals, so animal well-being of the birds, and then the breed needed to be better chicken commitment approved, and then obviously the performance at the farm level, and then the quality of the meat, of the nutrition at the end. So once we had all of that in mind, we were like, so where are we going to perform this research? So we know for a fact that Salvatierra is our research farm, so we had that in mind, but we wanted to replicate. We wanted to see how it would behave. This specific breed would behave at a different farm, at a different location. So that's where we partnered with Wild Apple Meats as well, and so we were able to do one replicate there. So we set up to write the proposal of the research. It was going to be on black replicates, so four replicates. It was 1,000 to 1,700 chicks per flock. We had a hypothesis of how this breed would perform to our production model, but we wanted to make sure. That's why we added 1,600 to 700 chicks. So who was going to be involved in the research? So first of all, the farm owners, which is going to be Regi and Stephanie Chris at Wild Apple Meats, and then Cesar, Regi's brother at Salvatierra, and then Danielle that joined doing the research and setting up all the data collection, and then of course all of the RAA team. So we wanted to make sure that we collect this data so we can have it synchronized, so we can expose it to the farmers with a strong basis of what we have collected. So it was going to be quantitative and qualitative data that we collected. Okay. So with that in mind, we came up with a topic for the research. So it's going to be the adaptation and performance of heritage breed pioneer broilers in the poultry-centered regenerative agroforestry PCRA system, and this was carried out in Northfield, Minnesota. So with that, Danielle, I will pass it to you.
Thanks, Arnulfo. So we have a little agenda here that we go in. Some description, what's making observation, what was our feed program, what was some experiment results, and we draw in a conclusion about this research that we did in Salvatierra farm this season. So next, please, Arnulfo. We start with the description that Arnulfo said that research profile. That is the place of Salvatierra farm. We have three barn, one brooder. So with that in mind, we start with 5,100 Pioneer broiler. Uh, we use one brooder area, three chicken coops, and all the equipment like feeders and water lines. We use organic feed that we use in the system. Some of the based in the protocol, we use vinegar, garlic, straw bales for the paddocks. We use a notebook, a computer, and cell phone to be in touch with everybody in this research. So we established the PVA, the buffer area for Salvatierra farm. So we work with Arnulfo, identify different areas and reduce the risk of some problem with the flux. So that's the description that we made this year. Next, some of the observation that according to the protocol of the profile of the research that we use for is observation of adaptation during the brooding period. That was from the day one of age of the chicken to around 4 weeks old. We tracking the mortality during the brooding period. In the paddock, we saw the pasture ranging abilities of this pioneer breed. We take weekly gain weight with the of the data that we collect, the weekly mortality in the brooder and the production unit. We take data from the weekly feed consumption for this breed. We see we saw the general physical well-being and welfare. We discussed with Arnulfo, Reggie, and Cesar to identify this this data, and we collect them. That's the observation that we did. Some of activities that we did at farm level is the clean and disinfection of the brooder area. That's according to the protocol of Salvatierra Farm. We have a protocol for reception day that we track all the information that we saw in this day. We take weights weekly from the day 1 to 70 days. We work with the feed reception. We track all the feed that we use in this research. Uh, we work with Cesar, remove the beds from the cubs. So that's some activity that we did at level farm. We, according to the observation, we add in feeders in the paddock that the chicken can move through the paddocks. We work according to the protocol, the protein grains at the paddocks. We each time that we move the flocks between paddocks, we have those two paddocks. So we work with grain. And next, Arnulfo. So some of the activities you see, we that's the clean and disinfection process. That's a wet and dry process that we work in the brooder. We disinfect all the equipment. We settle of the drinker and the feeders. You see the distribution that we use in the brooder that allows access to all the chickens to the water lines and the feeders. In this brooder, we have a system that ground heater that's important in the first week of the of the bird. Next, we in the brooder area, the reception day, we work careful because there is many chickens. So we start to tracking how was the distribution in the brooder area. We start to identify what was male and what was female. So you can see in the photos. This pioneer breed has a good adaptation to the drinkers. From the first day, they start to use that nipple drinkers. That's a good. It's a good thing. A good is important because some in the first days, the chicken need to access water and feed. Access water is important, and that's a good thing from the pioneer. So in the activities in this brooder, we take in the weight. You see how was the process. We use a like a bucket and select chickens. We identify some chicken behavior that we track. It is around 20 days. You see they need more space. That's one or recommendation that we see with this pioneer. Uh, some nutrient we identify some problem like you see in the photo. That's a problem with this. We identify not much case, but it's important to track. Uh, this pioneer breed has a good distribution in the brooder, we see, and we determine how many days they can stay in this area. Yeah, the around 3 or 4 weeks, we recommend to move to the brooder to the production unit. This in Salvatierra have a process. We use a tractor to move them to the final unit. We work with Cesar doing it. You see that the chickens have a good response, good behavior when they stay in the new in the final production unit. They use yeah, they know where is the drinkers and the feeders, and the chickens spend 1 week in this we call a training week when they start ready to go to the paddocks. So we continue collecting the data in this area. uh, we use the same protocol. We use 10% of the flock, and we start around 3 days in the production unit when where they are ready to go to the paddock. So it's a good process with Cesar. He knows So some of the training period for the paddocks, we open in the morning, early in the morning, and they start go outside. One thing that the chickens looking they follow the feeders, so we use that technique with Cesar to training them to use the full paddock. So you see a good response or a good behavior for this pioneer breed is the empty barn. That means all the chicken as are in the paddocks, as you see, and you see that that's the technique. We put some feed that they can follow and found the feeders. So in less than 10 days, they use all the paddocks using the last photo. There is the fence, so they use all the paddocks. That fence is around 200 feet from the barn, so that's one important data to track. Yeah, that's the machine that we use to spread grain in the paddocks. That when the chickens are in the paddock one, we work in the paddock two. When we move the chickens to the paddock two, they will be ready with grain. So that's and how was the chicken behavior in the paddock? They continue use the water lines, so that's a good thing, and the feeders too. And you see in the photo, all the chickens have a good behavior. They are ranging around the paddock, and we track where is the poop in the paddock, so that's allow that we understand that the chicken use the full paddock, as you see. And the last photo, you see the chicken effect, we call this, because they use the paddock, and you see, and that's the first flock of the season that there is not much vegetation. Yep. So you see that start to turn green. That's because we start for summer. So and the chickens are ready to around they gain a good weight at this time, and they use the full paddock. That's important because that like they need like exercise and move around. Yeah, and that's a good when we see this pioneer breed have this good behavior in the paddocks, and they 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 use the full paddock. And some of the activities that we continue to tracking is the distribution to the harvest day. So we see we have a protocol with the team that we implement that day, the harvest date, and they graduate from the Salvatierra farm. And next day we start with the clean and disinfection process because we replicate this experience through the season. So we did 4 batch, and yeah, that's the process that we use. The feed program that we use, and we follow the protocol at Salvatierra Farm. So this is the feed program for the batch that I explained. We use organic 22% started feed from day from week one for to week four. We changed that at age 5 to 6 weeks. We use organic feed 20%, and for the final weeks from 7 to 10 weeks, we use the grower, and we talk with Arnulfo, Reggie, and Cesar when we try to use different protein level to see what is the chicken response that this program. So that's one important thing that we see in this research. And for batch two, you see we change the feed program. We only use one protein level in 3 different treatments. So So we that's one change that we continue because we want to know what is the best protein level for this pioneer breed. So some result that we collect that's important. We with the daily tracking data, we did this chart that allows to understand how was the trend of the weight for this pioneer breed. So we see they have a good um, performance because we 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 uh, we have the weight for market. So around 9 weeks and to 10 weeks, because we don't know when they get this weight. So they in week 9 they start to around 7 pounds. You see in the treatment one is 763 pounds. This is the higher weight. And the training two is 729 pounds. And the last one is 682 pounds. So that's the weight that we have for harvest time. So that's the thing. And the with this different feed program. And we with the next batch, you see the next chart. That we reduce 1 week because we see in the batch one they are too heavy to the harvest day. So that's a one decision that we did because we need to found the day or the time to harvest them. So for batch two, we reduce around 1 week and they almost have the target weight around 6. They in week 9, they have 5.72 pounds and the treatment two is 567 and treatment 3 562. So this is when we choose one protein level with this feed program. So that's another good information that we collect in this pioneer breed. So with that in mind, we continue use one protein level with this second feed program to verify the information that we collect, and we understand better this pioneer breed. And you see the weight in week 9 is 6.25 pounds and the other is 6.15 pounds and the other is 6.39 pounds. That's important because this data that we collect continues through the season. And the last batch that we work we did is 6. And that's other change that we use is on collect data we collect data from male, females, and mix. That's the different in batch 4. So the females they get weight 620 pounds at week 9. The mix they have 7 pounds, and the final the males is 7.4 pounds. In that, according to the data that we collect, we see the trend in this pioneer breed that allows around 8 to 9 weeks they have um a good weight to be ready to be harvested. So the mortality rate you see in the batch one we have an incident. that is coccidiosis problem. That was because the chicken was stressed for external visitors. So that's one problem we have. But in the other batch, you see the trend is a flat trend, and we that's less than 5% of the mortality rate. And you see in the batch three, one in week 4, there is one high mortality because we have a problem, a heat problem. That week there is around 3 days that around 100 Fahrenheit. That was a reason heat that the chickens, some of chicken, we lose some of chicken for that reason. Yeah. Next, Arnulfo. So in this, you see, this is the data, some of the data that we have. It's important to see in week 4 and to 6, they they have a good gain weight around 1 pound, and other is in week 8, they gain one more than 1 pound. That's a good performance of this pioneer breed. That's important because allows us to see what is the performance and take care in that weeks, because they need more to more care. Yeah. Um, yeah. So some conclusion, Arnulfo, as to you.
I think you're muted,
You're
Arnulfo.
mute.
Thank you, Daniel. It's amazing, guys. So this is awesome. This is just we're just hitting like the tip of the iceberg with all this information and with this data with this breed that we can translate to the farmer at the farm level. So considerations, getting close to drawing a conclusion of this whole investigation and research, and we'll open up for questions as well. So we wanted to make sure that we're taking into consideration the animal well-being. So how the animal performs in the paddocks, and then how what is their performance, and then how we're harvesting them. The ranging and the mortality. So as you guys saw from the picture and the data that Danielle had, so the strategic movements of the feeders around the paddock made it, and we saw that this breed ranges out throughout the paddock. Mortality, we saw the data from at the brooder stage and then while in the grower stage. And then we were able to see the precise age and weight at harvest that we need for to achieve carcass weight at the processing level. And then animal handling and transportation was huge. This 12 fox that we were able to run at Salvatierra, we saw how many crates we needed at the different ages that we were harvesting. So that is huge as well. The feed rations, we had information that this breed performed well in one ration, but we were not given that information specifically. So we found out with this that at 20% protein level is a good ration to move this to grow these breeds out. And then we were able to calculate as well some feed conversion ratios. And then so overall, so we found out that this breed is really adaptable to our system, but we also wanted to do a financial flock profile. So we're still continuing on working on that and creating a farm financial flock profile. And then some steps that will be coming is nutrition density. So we want to see how nutritious are the meat of these birds as they get to the consumer. And then gives our marketing and sales department, what are the customer and market preferences, like weights and size of the bird at harvest. So with that, we'll share some learnings that we did, and Danielle, you can jump in as well. as we talk about these learnings. So the first one is we need to add more brooder space starting at week 3, and or be ready to transfer to the production unit. So if you have a brooding space, in the case of Salvatierra, we found out that around that week 3.5, they need some more space so they can grow, and we're ready to move them to the brooder. 2, so we need to have very careful observations of the ventilation, the temperature, humidity, and the consistency and dryness of the bed. Then always consider the weather conditions at training. So whenever it's training week, make sure you consider the weather conditions. And we're starting to range in the paddocks. So if it's going to be a rainy day, just have those things in considerations as you plan your training week. From week 4 to week 6, birds are more susceptible to aerial predators. So if canopy is absent, we have to be watchful for that as well. We found out that loading feeders at the end of the day is way better than instead of the morning, because in the morning, whenever you're trying to load feeders and chickens are out, they're hungry, they're trying to be in between that you're doing the tasks. So load feeders at the end of the day. Always check for water availability. So water availability will equal to feed consumption. So both go hand in hand. Daily checks of fecal disposal. And that was awesome adding this year, as the farmers on the system know, we added veterinary services. So checking daily fecal disposals is huge. The vet can help us draw a lot of conclusions by a picture of a fecal disposal. And then having consistent daily records, that is huge, guys. So while working with the vet and the whole team, having that daily consistent records is huge, helps us make better decisions, and it helps us compare flock by flock as we improve in our system. And then lastly, but not least, is harvest weights can be achieved from around week 9. And based on the data that we have collected, is at a minimum of 6.15 pounds live weight. That's what we saw throughout the research. So those are some learnings that we found. Before I end, I want to thank our sponsors. So ASPCA was a huge sponsor for this research. Obviously, Regenerative Agriculture Alliance, Wild Apple Meats, we did a replicate there. Salvatierra Farms for having those 12 flocks running there with Danielle. Our partners at 4-Star Veterinary Services. And then our third-party certifier, A Greener World. So thank you so much for our sponsors and our partners in this project that we were able to carry out. I would like to say thank you and open it for questions.
Hi, I have a question. Hi, guys. Great presentation, Danielle and Arnulfo. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm driving. I hate talking on the phone when I'm driving. Anyway, thank you so much for all that information. It's so helpful. Danielle probably mentioned this, and I maybe just missed it. But what was the total amount of pounds per flock per batch? Was that consistent, regardless of the protein? And then I didn't catch, but was it the one that started with 22% and went to 20 that had a better feed conversion, or was going 20% all the way through the better one?
Danielle, do you want to attack some of those questions? There was a couple questions, I think, in your question, Stephanie. So let's see. So the first one is, was the total feed consumed throughout the time of the birds at the farm were the same, right? That was your first question, right?
Yes.
Okay, Danielle, do you want to jump in? You can add your thoughts. So no, they were not different. They were different, Stephanie. Firstly, because of the first batch, those birds went to a longer period of time to harvest due to starting at the plant. That was the first batch of the year. So those birds were harvested around 10 and a half
Beautiful.
to 11 weeks. And then
Beautiful.
from there, we were able to conclude that based on the data that we had collected, that we were able to harvest them from 9 weeks, 8, 9, 10 weeks. They were reaching the weight, the live weight that we wanted them to represent, that's carcass weight. So those were different consumption rates of total feed. The second one is that so since we're processing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at the plant, so there was a little difference from the flock that we harvested on a Monday, or the flock that we've harvested on the Friday or a Monday of the following week. But overall, Danielle, you can correct me if I'm wrong. What we saw was 22,500 to 23,000 pounds per flock that were consumed.
Yeah, you are right there, around that.
Okay, and then based on the weight gain and feed conversion that we saw, Stephanie, that's where we concluded that using 20% ration throughout their phases of growth of this breed was giving us the best results. And there is more, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more data that we can collect for performance-wise, but based on what we had collected, we recommended that 20% would be an efficient protein profile for the bird throughout their lifespan.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that, guys. It might have been said, but it's just hard for me to hear while I'm driving. So thank you.
No problem. Was that your two questions?
Yep. That was both of them. You hit them on the head there. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
And to add that, that's the reason that the last batch that we did at Salvatierra Farm, we divided we divided from the provider in male, female, and mixed, because the male they gain weight more quickly than the female, and the behavior that we saw is different. The female are more calm, and they have a very different behavior, and that's other reason that we for the time of the plant, and that's one reason that we tried this different for the final batch of Salvatierra Farm.
Thank you both so much for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. I was wondering if you could clarify the average mortality rates for the, what was the percentage for those? And was this season typical compared to past ones? I know that you're not necessarily doing a comparative experiment to other seasons, but wondering if you saw overall some consistency. Clearly, you had some episodes that were particular incidents that increased mortality, but
yes. Danielle, I can start and you can jump in with the percentages. Okay. So yes, thank you very much for that question, and that's very, very crucial question. So I do not have the graph here, but based on working at the general farm mortality rates for 2025, we saw tremendous improvement at farm level and ecosystem level. So if you guys see here from the graph that Danielle had done from his mortality data that he collected, so like he mentioned, so this is total for batch one. If you guys saw, this was around, I believe, Danielle, and you can correct me, around 12% for that whole batch. And this, as we can see here, the spike was due to increased visitors at the brooder level. So we know that the critical stages of chicks once they get to the farm is the first 2 or 3 weeks. So we had that incidence there, and that's where we had that spike there. Then from there, once we were able to get in communication with the vet and knew the steps that we needed to take from there, you can see the trend goes right down. And then batch two, totally, it was around 2 or 3% mortality, which is, way under what the commercial or the standards that they have. So we, as an ecosystem, we wanted to be around 5%, and then improve from there. So, and then batch 3, like how Daniel mentioned, we had a spike here. I believe this was around 6%, but this was in the middle of the summer, so it was high temperatures here. And some of the farmers may have noticed this already, as well, that we didn't see any weight gains for that week because of the heat wave that was coming through. And then batch 4, you can see consistent. Well, this was in the beginning. It was a spike here as well because of some incident that we had with a little bit of cocci. But once these were all under control, you can see trends going down, and that's what we tend to see whenever we're working with birds. So the first 2-3 weeks are very crucial. That we need to make sure that we're very attentive to these, and from there, this spikes here that we can see a little bit is due to aerial predation or any other instance at the farm. But that's what we saw in general. But Daniel, do you have some of these concrete numbers?
Yeah, this is the total we have in the Excel. But as you say, that's and the three, batch 2, and batch 4, we are under 5%, and that's a good thing. We collect the data weekly, so that's the amount of chicken that died for weeks. So that we have all the data, and that's important, as you say, that this in the training in week 4, as you saw, and in batch 3 is we learn that we need to see the weather, because that's important in this period, because the chicken have some stress in this learning training week, because they start to use the paddock. So that's the two things that we need to be care in this area, in the weekly. Yeah.
Gotcha. I have a couple other questions, but if other folks want to pop in,
Yes, or if there's any comments, towards of their experiences as well, that'd be awesome.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the sex differentiation. You're gathering data on males and females, and seeing from your presentation, seeing some differences across weights, which makes sense. What are the implications of that? What are you thinking in terms of what are the implications in terms of is it significant? First of all, are the differences in the sex significant? And then does it have implications for you in terms of practices and um, in terms of the production system in the future, or choices um, for where you get chicks?
Yes, that's an awesome question, actually. Yeah. So we were able to, with the setup that we have at the research farm at Salvatierra, we were able to set up this foot patch experimental system very easily. So we had 3 barns, and then the idea came up that we said, okay, we're gonna have one flock of females, one flock of males, and then one flock of straight runs. So we immediately got in contact with the hatchery to see if that would be possible whenever we're getting chicks. So they responded back to us, yeah, it's going to be possible, but it's not like 100% verifiable or sure that it's going to be that way. We're always going to have some, like 98% of males and some females, and vice versa. So how does this impact our whole ecosystem? So this gave us the data collected that we saw. Okay, so males, like Danielle was mentioning here were faster, and the more efficient at converting feed to pounds of meat, and they were faster. Um, as we can see there, an average of 7.4 pounds at harvest. Things that we noticed there, they were a little bit more aggressive because they're all males on a coop. You know how strange is that? There was a little bit of pecking and things like that. Secondly, the females, the females were at 7 pounds, right, Danielle? Is that right?
This is the mixed
The
7 pound.
mix, okay. So the mix we saw they were average of 7 pounds at harvest. So that gives us the opportunity, and there were a couple more days from harvest from the males because of the plant schedule. So around the same amount of feed consumed, and then the females only were at 6.2 pounds at average, and they were the last flock to be harvested. So what does this represent to us as an ecosystem and making decisions for scheduling? So let's say the plant has 3 days for processing. So that means that we can harvest it once it's set up and run efficiently. We can have farms that need to harvest earlier. We can request for them to have males only. And then farms that are going to take a little bit longer, we can have females there only, and or mixed, so that we can get to the average weight that we're needing, thus not putting in danger the average weight at harvest. So those are things that we can multiply to other farms. Also, in the females and the mix, there was very little pecking. There was very little aggression between the breeds that were moving around. So also added there, what is the difference in the nutrient density, texture, and taste from the males only to the females to the mix? So those are other things that started popping up, like what the questions that keep coming. So those are things to follow. But those are, I think, key things that we can multiply at the farm level with this data that we collected, when making decisions for scheduling, and also whenever we're communicating with the hatcheries. So yeah, it gives us a very good background on making significant decisions as we communicate with farmers on how we move forward on the near future.
Yeah. To add that, Arnulfo, one other thing is the harvest date. The behavior is different. Reggie say that it was more easy with the females than the male. That's other point that allows to understand better this pioneer breed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I heard you say that batch one was too heavy. Is that right?
Yes.
Talk about the target weight, what it is, and what you're looking for at that point of harvest.
Yes. Okay. So here's another hypothesis that we had in the beginning, and we're going to working on verifying this at the plant level. So our hypothesis is that if we harvest a bird around 6 to 6.5 pounds, 6 pounds, and we lose about, I would say, 30% of feathers, head and neck, feet, and the digestive tract and giblets. So we lose 30% of that. That's a byproduct of the birds that are not necessarily consumed or used at this point for us, for the ecosystem. So based on that, 6 to 6.5 pounds, that's where we would like to see a live bird. So we will get a 3.8, 3.9, 4 pounds carcass weight. And based on some market study and some market preliminary research that we have done, that's what we're looking for at the market. So breasts that are heavier and whole birds that are around that weight. So let's not get confused. There's still demand for birds are 3.5, 3.6, and that's where the females or the other breeds that we were working with in the past years come in. So these particular birds in batch one, as we saw, they were 7.63, 7.29, and 6.83 pounds average. So we this specific batch, as I mentioned, was taken a little bit longer than what the normal flocks would do, around 10 weeks. And the reason was that we were setting up everything at the plant, so we were ready to start. So hence we needed to leave these birds a little bit longer at the farm. And that's where we see these weights that were coming in. Then, based on all of that experience and what we had gained before as well, if you see batch two, we're at 5.7, 5.6, 5.2, 5.6, and so forth. So we started fine tuning where is the real spot that we needed to harvest. And the hypothesis that we have, that 30%, we're going to work with some of the flocks that we still have on the ground that will be coming to processing, so we can collect that data. What is the percentage of feathers? What is the percentage of the digestive tract? And then what is the breakdown? Now, what is the breakdown of a chicken? What's the weight of the breast? What's the weight of the thighs? What's the weight of the drumstick? So that's going to give us a lot more information that will accompany this research.
Gotcha.
Questions? So the like weighing the different like a chopped up bird and the different parts of it. So that's all falls under this pioneer breed research. It'll all be together as part of the project.
So it was not part of the project. It just came up to us that we needed that part of the information as an ecosystem, which we had not collected. So we're going to use this flux that will be coming in the next this week and next week to see if we can gather some of that data, and then work more rigorously next year so that we can validate. We can have someone that would be like, taking all the data. The plan is to collect some of that data this year, but validation would take a lot next year to see what is the total breakdown, as you mentioned, Stephanie. Yes. But we will be happy to share it as well with everyone.
Okay, thank you. Cool. That's what I was going to ask, is when you do get it, let all us producers know. We love that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I had one other question about, you talked a lot in your presentation about the importance of distribution and making sure that the chickens are really making use of the entire paddock. And I wondered if you could go over that a little bit more. Just what are the most important kind of practices or crucial parts of what you were putting in place in order to encourage the wider distribution?
That is yours, Danielle.
Okay, is you please go to the first where is the map of Salvatierra Farm? That one. It's a little, yeah.
Small.
So you see the paddock is this distribution of Salvatierra Farm. Is like a square. So at the beginning, we talk a lot of this with Cesar, the Regis brother, because we need to move the feeders around all the paddocks to that the chickens follow the feeder and they eat and ranging and use the full paddocks. So at the beginning, we it was hard for us because we don't complete the full paddocks moving the feeders. So we use different techniques moving, but we with the batch two, we established the process. We recommend move the feeders, two feeders each day, because that allows us to the move around all the fence, and that's one important things. And the chicken follow the feed, so when the chicken eat and they access to feed and the water, and they start ranging, and they use all the paddock, so they go in different directions, and we track the poops in the paddock, and that's one important thing because we are working with the soil, so that's we that's like a fertilizer, so the chickens did in a good way when we have a good distribution of the feeders, and that's the reason that we established this protocol, and we they will continue doing next year because we determine that the a good distribution, that we start in front of the barn, move around the fence, and that's other thing that allows you uh to plant like corn and sunflower in the other paddocks, so we use only one path for the feeders, so that's important, and that's the reason. And as you say, the chicken need to move because they need to be healthy, so that's other reason that we takes a lot of photo and video on how was the chicken behavior, and we determine that pioneer breed has a good ranging abilities. Yeah, Arnulfo, you have something to add?
Yeah, yeah. As Daniel mentioned, that was an observation that we still needed to collect. We knew from other breeds what would be their distribution, but we had the hypothesis that this breed would distribute very well. But as Daniel said, after the first flock, we determined what were those challenges of areas of improvement, and I would say a good technique on the sahars or feeder movements around the paddocks so that they can cover all the paddock. As Daniel mentioned, once these feeders are moved, the chickens will this breed specifically they find the feeders and they move to that area. And two, there was some grain that was spread throughout the paddock as well, so that helped as well. We were able to see fecal droppings by the corners, like Daniel had mentioned in his presentation, by the fences. So that clearly shows that they were they were outranging to to their maximum capacity.
At what point were you spreading grain?
Daniel.
We spread we have two paddocks, so when the chicken use we call paddock one and paddock two. When the chickens are in paddock one, like this, we are working in the other paddock, spread grain and use some straw to cover them. This is for example, at Salvatierra Farm, the chicken spend around 2 or 3 weeks in one paddock. So when before 1 week that we move the chicken to other paddock, we start to spread grain because they start to sprout, and when they are ready, we open the other side of the barn, and the chicken start to pick the grains and everything, and that's improved the distribution of the chickens in the paddocks too.
Okay, gotcha. In parallel, you're also doing, is there still soil health monitoring going on at Salvatierra?
Yes, yes, there was still we had a you guys are familiar with a Thousand Farm Initiative Foundation. They came right whenever this trial was happening, and they took some soil samples at different paddocks randomly. So we're going to see what those analyses come up to. I think we're going to have a full report in a couple of months, and that we will be able to share if Rahi is okay with it. But yeah, they were still, and I know Dr. Dan Hernandez, and they're still carrying research on soil analysis, soil profile, and nutrition. But we did not did any specific for this research.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions that come up?
Or any comments?
Or comments, yes.
Yes.
Reactions.
And we want to take the opportunity to say thank you. I'm not seeing who's online or who'll be watching this, but we take the opportunity for this space, Anna, for us to share. Like I said, it's the tip of the iceberg of in research that we can transfer this better decisions to our farmers. I'm glad that we have this opportunity at Salvatierra and some farms that volunteer to get this data collected. Makes it easier setting up farmers for future success.